Good morning from Prudent Prosperity, Friday, October 24th. Here are 5 things you need to know today. Number 1, stock futures are higher this morning as earnings reports continue to roll in and investors prepare for the release of a key inflation report. Futures tied to the benchmark S&P 500 and the tech-heavy NASDAQ recently were up 0.3% and 0.5%, respectively, while Dow Jones Industrial Average futures added 0.2%. The major indexes are coming off a winning session on Thursday and are on track to post gains for the second consecutive week. Gold futures were down 1.6% at $4,080 an ounce, as trading in the precious metal remains volatile, while Bitcoin was at $111,100, up from an overnight low around $109,400. The yield on the 10-year Treasury note, which affects borrowing costs on all sorts of consumer loans, rose to 4.01% from 3.99% at yesterday's close. Number 2, President Donald Trump said that all trade negotiations with Canada have been terminated after the Ontario provincial government used audio of former President Ronald Reagan criticizing tariffs in television ads aired in the United States. Trump described the ads as fake and posted a message from the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute that said the ad misrepresented a 1987 radio address given by the former president. Trump said the ad was designed to influence the current Supreme Court review of tariffs. Tariffs are very important to the national security and economy of the USA, Trump wrote. Trump's trade threat comes after he had already proposed a series of tariffs on the country. Negotiations over renewal of the U.S.-Mexico-Canada USMCA trade deal had been scheduled to take place ahead of a July 2026 deadline. Number 3. Intel INTC shares surged in pre-market trading after the embattled chipmaker said it swung to a profit in the third quarter and delivered an optimistic outlook for the fourth quarter. After reporting losses in the prior and year-ago quarters, Intel's profit of 23 cents per share were well above analysts' estimates of 2 cents compiled by Visible Alpha. The company also reported a better-than-expected 3% rise in revenue to $13.7 billion. We took meaningful steps this quarter to strengthen our balance sheet, including accelerated funding from the U.S. government and investments by NVIDIA and SoftBank Group that increase our operational flexibility and demonstrate the critical role we play in the ecosystem, said CFO David Zinsner. Intel said it expects adjusted earnings of 8 cents per share in the current quarter on sales of $12.8 billion to $13.8 billion. Intel shares were up 7% in recent trading. Coming into today's session, the stock had gained 90% since the start of the year, boosted by a flurry of high-profile deals in recent months. Number 4. Shares of Ford are rising this morning after the Big 3 automaker reported results that handily topped Wall Street expectations on the top and bottom lines. Ford reported a 9% jump in revenue to $50.5 billion, compared with the $46.3 billion analyst consensus, while its adjusted earnings per share of 60 cents blew by projections of 34 cents. However, citing the costs of a New York factory fire that could total between $1.5 billion and $2 billion, Ford lowered its 2025 outlook for adjusted earnings before interest and taxes to between $6 billion and $6.5 billion, from $6.5 billion to $7.5 billion previously. Ford shares, which through Thursday's close had risen 25% in 2025, were up 4% in recent pre-market trading. Number 5. Inflation held stubbornly around 3% in September, government data showed Friday, but came in slightly cooler than analysts expected across the board as investors continue to assess the Federal Reserve's path toward its 2% target. The latest data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics showed the Consumer Price Index, CPI, rose 3% year-over-year in September, up from 2.9% in August, but slightly below economist expectations for a 3.1% increase. That marks the highest reading since May and remains above the 12-month average of 2.7%. And that's it for today.
If any of today's insights sparked a question or made you think about your own financial journey, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Let's take your next step together, strategically and confidently. And always remember, stay prudent, stay prosperous. Make it a great day.